A calm plan can vanish when a craving or fear emerges, and the next choice surprises you. The gap between intention and action is the starting problem, as it repeats in health, work, and relationships. The mechanism is a mind split into parts, where fast impulses compete with slow reasoning and long-term goals. When the fast system takes the wheel, the reasoning system often scrambles to justify the turn after it happens. Over time, this internal tug-of-war drains attention, fuels self-blame, and makes change feel harder than it should. It also spills outward, as small conflicts grow when each person feels certain and misunderstood at once. A familiar scene is promising to respond patiently, then snapping during a stressful moment and regretting it minutes later. Another scene is deciding to focus, then sliding into distraction, because the urge to escape discomfort wins quietly. In the next minutes, you will learn a practical map of inner conflict, social friction, and lasting well-being. This video is inspired by the happiness hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt, and subscribe to learn more evidence-tested ideas for living well. A central metaphor is that of a rider steering an elephant, where conscious thought rides on automatic emotion. The rider can reason and plan, but the elephant generates impulses, habits, and most of the drive. Since the rider is small, it gets exhausted by constant self-control, especially under stress or fatigue. When the elephant wants something, the rider often negotiates instead of commanding, and the habit persists. One pattern is making detailed goals on Sunday, then abandoning them midweek when pressure piles up. Another pattern is redesigning the environment so that the easiest option aligns with the goal and temptation loses power. This split explains why lectures rarely change behaviour, as rules inform the rider while instincts move the elephant. It also explains why self-insight matters, because noticing the elephant reduces shame and improves strategy. Identify 2 recurring triggers that wake the elephant, and write 1 alternative routine to reduce exposure to them. Practice this routine for a week, then adjust it gently, because repetition is how automatic responses change. Automatic evaluations occur continuously, and a lycometer tags experiences as good or bad within seconds. Once it tags a moment, the rider explains the feeling as if logic produced it, even when it did not. Since attention is selective, the tag influences what evidence you notice and what memories you retrieve. Negative cues are prioritized, so the mind scans for threats faster than comforts, and then loops on them. Before a meeting, one doubtful thought can trigger a search for mistakes, and neutral faces start looking hostile. In contrast, a trained focus can notice the same faces, stay calm, and keep curiosity active. The key is not debating the elephant, but shaping it through repeated experiences that pair calm attention with new meaning. Cognitive therapy and meditation work because they change interpretations and attention patterns that fuel automatic reactions. When a negative story appears, write 2 alternative explanations, then check which one fits the observed facts best. Add a brief daily attention practice, such as breath focus, so calm is easier to access during pressure. Reciprocity is a deep instinct that sets default expectations for fairness, help, and payback. People mirror what they receive, so kindness invites cooperation, and harm invites defense. When reciprocity turns negative, each side feels justified, and small slights become evidence of bad intent. The rider then argues like a lawyer, defending the elephant's reaction, instead of testing whether it was accurate. A colleague ignores one request, you stop offering support, and soon both sides interpret distance as disrespect. A different pattern begins with being nice, responding to harm, and returning to cooperation once the signal changes. This approach matters because social life runs on repeated exchanges, not one-time speeches about values. It links back to happiness because calmer relationships reduce threat vigilance and free energy for purpose and growth. Before reacting, use a fairness check and ask what evidence would change your view. If conflict habits feel familiar, subscribe to learn scripts for repairing trust and keeping cooperation alive daily. People quickly spot the faults in others, yet their own motives remain partially hidden, even from themselves. The mind constructs reasons after the fact, making judgments feel obvious and inevitable. This fosters a sense of self-righteousness, as moral emotions reward feeling correct more than being accurate. It also makes groups harsh, as contempt and gossip bond insiders by sharing targets and stories. In debates, each side lists the other's errors, but but no one questions the bias that shaped their first reaction. In contrast, a humble stance acknowledges uncertainty, checks assumptions, and makes room for repair without losing boundaries. Reducing hypocrisy matters because trust depends on consistency, and inconsistency is easier to fix when admitted early. It also protects happiness, as constant moral outrage keeps the mind tense and narrows attention to threats. Try a two-step pause. State what evidence would change your mind, then look for it before criticizing. Keep a private log of your most common moral complaints, then reverse them into habits you will practice this week. Happiness relies on internal habits and external conditions that shape daily experience. Internal habits involve how attention is trained, while external conditions include relationships, meaningful work, and stability. Since adaptation is swift, chasing new pleasures often resets the baseline, leaving satisfaction short-lived. Instead, investing in close bonds and purpose tends to keep paying off, as they generate ongoing renewal. Some people upgrade routines and possessions, but the initial lift fades and the next upgrade feels necessary. Others prioritize time with friends, practice kindness, and notice that ordinary days feel fuller and calmer. This aligns with earlier ideas, as a secure social base calms the mind and fosters honest reflection. It also reframes adversity, as difficult periods can produce growth when supported by meaning and connection. Choose one relationship practice, such as a weekly call or shared meal, and treat it as a non-negotiable commitment. Add one virtue practice, such as gratitude or service, because repeated action reshapes emotion and strengthens community. A lasting approach begins by accepting that the mind is divided, so change requires strategy, not self-blame. The rider can guide the elephant by shaping habits and environments that make good impulses easier. Thinking shapes emotion, so reframing, attention training, and calmer interpretations reduce unnecessary suffering. Reciprocity shapes relationships, so fairness signals, repair moves, and humility keep conflicts from hardening. When these pieces work together, happiness becomes more stable because bonds deepen and purpose replaces constant chasing. Even adversity can lead to growth, and virtues become rewarding because they build trust and meaning over time. Start with one internal practice and one social practice, and keep them small enough to repeat daily. Review progress monthly, looking for patterns that trigger the elephant, and redesign them rather than forcing willpower. The goal is not perfect calm, but a life that stays aligned when pressure rises and noise increases. If you want clearer frameworks for calmer minds and better relationships, then subscribe and keep building these skills with us.